Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk.
Getting down fresh out, and you tuned into another Prison Talk. One of the viewers emailed us and asked who were the toughest guys in prison, who were the most feared. As far as the toughest guys in prison, there were a lot of tough guys in prison, but they didn't come off as tough in a sense where you heard about them being tough. You just knew they were tough because of how they carried themselves, or maybe in passing conversation, you had heard about what they were about on the street. Nobody publicly talked about what they did on the street. If you heard about what somebody did on the street, it was usually through a second person, third person that knew about this person before they got locked up. One of the most gangster individuals I came across was Carmine Persico. He was the head of at one point, the Colombo crime family. He was in the same unit I was in Lompoc USP. He was on the first tier. This was back in 2000. I didn't have very many conversations with him. I'm not gonna pretend like I was kicking it with a mob guy, but Carmine was a mover and shaker. You could do your homework on him. I didn't know who he was when I first seen him. I just knew that he was a kind of a grandfatherly looking gentleman, quiet, kind of did his thing. And I was actually cool with one of the guys who used to look after him. And this individual used to let me look at like his DuPont registers, his rob reports, you know, some of his Wall Street journals he would let me read afterwards. And that's how I kind of had the interaction with him. I never really sat down and had major conversations with him, but you know, there was a hi, what's up here and there, and that was about it. But he was quiet. You know, he didn't speak a lot. He didn't, you know, rah. He watched his little shows. Nobody gave him any shit. Everybody respected him. And you look at his resume, he was a real gangster, you know. And there were some other guys in there that were at a high level of, I would consider, you know, gangster, you know, mob type dude that you would have never known that they were those type of people on the street. You know, guys that when they got caught, they had millions of dollars buried in the walls of their houses. You know, dudes from Mexico who got caught up when the political situation changed. You know, their cartel got snatched up, and these dudes were super balling. And then when the other administration came in, their cartels went down and the new ones came up. And there were a couple of those guys who got kind of thrown to the feds in there. And you didn't really try to, you know, you didn't talk about like, oh man, I had this on the street, I was balling this. These guys never talked about it. You just would, after you maybe talk to somebody, you know, maybe looking at cars or something or talking about business, somebody else would kind of tap you, like another cat would be like, you know, one of my Mexican partners would be like, hey man, you know that dude right there? That dude was balling, man. He was making like, dude, that dude was making, you know, a couple million a week. I'm like, what? Yeah, dude, that dude was balling down in Mexico. He was doing his thing. And that's how you knew. But these dudes were power players, man. They didn't do a whole lot of working out. You know, they weren't raw, and they weren't doing any of that. They were quietly doing their time and, you know, most likely working on some type of appeal or some type of, you know, attorney type situation. And that's how they did their time, and these guys were, still balling. Even in prison, they had access to, certain things, and they had resources. And there was quite a few people like that in the feds. The feds is a lot different than the state. The state, California in particular, very political. A lot of racism, a lot of gangs. I didn't do my time in the state. I only did youth authority time in California, and then my time was in the federal prison. And I've told my story a bunch of times, but the feds, you interact with multicultural people. I mean, you might be in there with a guy who was, running, a certain sect for the triads. You might run across a guy who was tied in with, the Korean mob, or, just a bunch of different characters in there. And like I said, none of these guys ever publicly talked about what they did. They would maybe mention, oh man, I had this car, I had maybe did this, had this, and, traveled here. And then you would just do your math. You're like, damn, that dude had this, he had that, he traveled here, he knew this guy. This guy, he's a real deal. He's a gangster. This guy was, then you see how people interact with him. And you kind of draw your own conclusions. But, another guy that stood out, and I don't know if I've talked about him before, but, everybody knew that this guy wasn't no joke. This guy was a Cuban guy, and he had been locked up in the feds, I don't know, maybe since the 80s, man, when they had the whole Cuban thing, when they came over and they had the riots and stuff down in Florida. But they had a bunch of Cubans in the feds back in the 80s. And these guys, at one point, I heard they, had some riots and took over one of the penitentiaries. But this guy, he was an older cat. I was in my 20s. This guy's probably late 40s, early 50s. And I think his name was Peoples. But he was like one of those guys, wore glasses, quiet, kind of, you could tell he was in shape. I seen him working out a few times, in the gym. He was super lean, ripped, pull-ups, push-ups. He was doing all that stuff. And had a certain demeanor about himself. But he wasn't the type of person you want to really try to get close and be cool with. Certain people, when that they're killers, like bona fide, that they're gangsters, you tread lightly. You see them, but you don't want to become too personal. And a homie told me this, because he said, man, look, you doing a dime. These dudes, man, they done been in here. They've done, a lot of time, and they got a lot of time, and they don't have nothing to lose. So watch yourself and who you make friends with. And so I was always careful of who I kicked it with too many times. If you hang out with a guy too many times during the week, he's going to expect you to hang out with him weekly, monthly, and then it becomes a problem when you try to break away. But this dude, only reason I had any type of interaction with it was because I used to work out in the gym too. When it was, weather was shitty outside, you go in there, you do pull-ups, push-ups and stuff, dips. And this dude, another guy had told me, like I said, these guys never tell you how tough they are, but they said, that guy, man, it's like, man, you don't want to ever owe that guy. Like if he gets a debt that somebody owes, it's a wrap. He's gonna come get his paper. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, man, that dude ain't no joke, man. He's he's quick to pull them knives, man. He'll shank a motherfucker quick, And yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, and like I wasn't messing with no drugs or anything, anyways. So I wasn't gonna put myself in any of those situations. I never got into smoking weed or trying to do any of that in prison or moving drugs, because man, the dudes moving drugs is serious. You start moving drugs, man, you touch that stuff, and it's like touching a tar baby. You can't get it off your hands, and you got the police, you got other inmates hating on you. You got a lot of dudes, man, that are just in your business. So you don't want to get caught up in the drug scene. But yeah, that guy, he was serious. And I've heard of people that had owed him and it wasn't good when he came to collect. It wasn't a good look. But he was he was a bona fide tough guy. There was a couple other dudes in there that you heard their name in passing, dudes who are martial artists that would bust you upside the head. A couple guys I came across worked in the kitchen. There was a guy up in there, no joke. They said he had got down with the popos up in there, and he didn't go to the hole because the popo took his belt off. And him and the popo got down. Popo was big, he was a big dude, and they was chunking him up in there. And they said, he was tossed the popo around and pots and pans were flying. And I guess the other officers heard it and ran up in there, but they couldn't do nothing because, he couldn't hit the deuces because he didn't have his belt on. So, it was a consensual, throwdown. But you have those type of cats in there, and you have police that will get down with you. They'll go in the back, let's get out. You want to talk all that mess? Let's handle it. And, at the USPs, that's what it's like. The USPs, which is considered like a level 4 in the state, you have dudes like that who are on major I'll crack your head time, and the COs are gangsters up in there. It's just like literally like a gang, just like the dudes on the street are a gang. And, there are a lot of guys who I would say could probably have that tough guy handle, but they're very humble. And most of those guys, if they have a problem with you, they're just gonna move in silence and stick you, and these guys, they're always covered up. The guys who are physically active, they're always covered up. You never see them peeling, or you don't know that, how strong they are because they work out, but they're very quiet. There's guys in there that had hit me up after I got out that were, about that life. And they used to say, man, I used to see you walking around, but you was doing your thing, I was doing my thing. And said, but congratulations on your show. So a lot of these guys recognize, but I wasn't no tough guy in there. Wasn't pretending to be. There'd be so many different riffs and different dudes from different states that were about that life that you just had to, mind your own, man. Guys from Florida, savages, dudes who would, no joke, dudes from DC, some savages, dudes from Baltimore, dudes from New York, and there were guys in there who were really bona fide tough guys. I remember seeing there was some guys from, I think they're from New Jersey or New York. Like I said, I didn't try to make too many acquaintances in there, but this cat, he, there's some Latin King dudes up in there, no joke. And one of the dudes had the crown tattooed on his head. He literally had it, walking around with that crown on his head. And I didn't know what a Latin King was before I got locked up, but I'm like, oh, dude kind of explained it to me, man, because I knew some Dominican cat in there and another Puerto Rican cat, and we were cool. And they used to kind of give me the 411 on, what some of these other guys, what they were into, because I used to do legal work with these guys. Be doing legal work, it kind of gave me a pass to talk to a lot of different dudes. I was able to talk to guys from Pennsylvania, dudes from Chicago, dudes from New York, to some degree. I wasn't busting spreads with them and nothing like that, but learned a lot about who was tough, and seeing some guys who wanted to be tough guys come through there. And man, I'm telling you, I seen a guy come through there, and he was, walking around with no shirt on when he's going to the shower. He was kind of swole, youngster, and I can't remember where he's from, but he was into that gang life. I want to say, I can't remember. I think he was a Crip or something from somewhere. And man, there was a lot of Crips at Lompoc. I mean, serious gang members from LA, no joke, and a lot of Bloods too. There was quite a few Bloods, and even Bloods from the East Coast. But this dude, when I seen him walking through there, kind of, bebopping, I'm like, dude, that dude ain't gonna last 2 weeks up in here, man. This is serious. He don't know where he's at. And sure enough, man, I don't know what he did, but he got rolled up. They rolled his ass up, man. He didn't last 2 weeks. And then I've seen, other cats in there just kind of mind their business, man, and nobody mess with them. And then you just hear stories, or that dude right there, he caught so and so in the unit in the mop closet, and yeah, he stuck a dude in the mop closet, and the mop closet that was a dangerous place, man. People hit a lot of stuff in there, and people got they cheeks took in there, and people got murdered up in there, stuffed in there. The mop closet was a sinister place up in prison. I remember one time walking down the corridor, and in Lompoc USP, man, it was always an eerie feeling, man. That place is always had a weird vibe, man. Just really dark and horrible, man. The darkest places you can ever think of, man. There's nowhere I've ever been that's been more dark than that vibe there. And they call it the castle. Man, ain't nothing. There's nothing like as far as good in that place. People don't parole from there. You just get transferred to another spot. I'd never seen nobody leave from there. That place, people are there, you got a lot of time. I don't even know if it's still open, but Lompoc USP. Anyways, I'm walking down the corridor, and this dude is standing in the hallway, and he's looking at me, and I look at him, and I kind of nod my head, like, just what you would do casually to a person on the street. And he's like, nigga, what's up? Do I know you? I said, nah. He's like, what's up? And I just kept walking, man, minding my business, And one thing I learned later, that dude, he's on point, but in that mop bucket, in that water, he got shanks and stuff up in there. So who knows what he was moving, or if he had drugs in there. They move all kind of stuff in the mop water. But the mop buckets are a means of transportation of contraband. So, this dude, later on, he was kind of like, oh, all right, just nodding at me being cool, but I don't know if he thought I was trying to like call him out or somehow, disrespect him or something, man. But yeah, you don't even say what's up to people in there. You don't say what's up. You mind your business, man. You don't even make eye contact. You try to avoid you don't stare down when somebody look at you, but you don't walk around looking at people like, trying to get recognized. You're not trying to get like, hey man, look at me. You mind your business, man. It's one of them type of spots. Lompoc USP, but tough guys. Ran across a lot. None of them publicly stated they were tough. I knew they were tough by what I heard about them, but yeah, that's, as far as tough guys, what I've ran across. Actually, there's a guy from DC, I remember. This guy was probably 50-something years old, and he was a G. And I remember he came out to the yard because he was saying, like, I guess the youngsters thought he was an old man. And he said, yeah, these youngsters out here think they can get with this. He put on 3 wheels. He repped it like 15, 20 times. Then he put on 4 wheels, and he hit that like, I want to say like 8, maybe 9, 10 times. Then he had 495 on there, and he hit it like twice. And he like who wants a problem around here? Who got a problem? And I looked at this dude, old cat. I mean, he was in shape, but he wasn't super ripped up or nothing. He was just a big dude like Cock Diesel. And dude, nobody said nothing. This was at Sheridan. Everybody just kind of looked around, and other OGs was like, yeah, laughing. And he's like, yeah, you think old man ain't got it, huh? Find out. And yeah, he flexed and kept it moving. I didn't really even see the guy work out a lot. He maybe came out there every now and then to work out on the yard, but he didn't even work out a lot like that. He worked out every so often, but he was cool with me. We were in the same unit. And he just liked the way I carried myself. he didn't mess with a lot of dudes, and he would call out bullshit, and he was just a hard dude. He'd been down 20-something years, but straight G, who got a problem around here? You know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna play with you. And all the youngsters were like, because these young cats, at that time, the prison population started changing. A lot of guys wasn't working out like that. He was from the old school, from the old guard. This guy from DC, all them dudes are about their business. They stick together. DC has one of the tightest cars in prison. Them dudes watch each other's back. If you get into one DC dude, you're gonna have to fight 20 or 30 of them. They ain't playing, man. And this dude, he was cool. I was cool with quite a few DC dudes up in there. But yeah, he was a sav. Yep. But he was a tough guy. He didn't outwardly say it, but he was a tough guy. So yeah, man, a lot of tough guys in there. But nobody publicly said they were a tough guy or alpha male, none of that. These guys you just knew. Some of them weren't even big dudes. A couple guys I knew that were tough guys were little, maybe 130, 140. But dude had previously been in Pelican Bay and some other spots, and you just, you knew. Dude coming from Pelican Bay, he up in the feds now. He on a whole nother different mind state. The way he looks at things is totally different. So, but never loud, never boisterous, and quiet and dangerous. Tough guys. Big Herc 916, getting down with fresh out prison talk.
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. I'm Big Herc, and I have over a decade of experience in the prison system. Yeah, I've done a lot of time, made a lot of stupid mistakes, but that's why I'm here with you today, educating you on the Mastermind program by Fresh Out. See, they don't give you a manual when you go to jail on how to survive. They don't tell you how to go take a shower, where to sit at when you go to chow, what to do when you have mail call, how to handle your commissary. See, we cover that and a multitude of other topics that are very important, because if you do the wrong thing, you can get your damn wig split. We have over 100 million views as of date on our YouTube channel, but we've put and condensed all this knowledge into this Mastermind program so that you can provide your client with a winning chance. Do yourself a favor and your client a favor and sign them up for our program so they don't have to get their wig split and they can make it out alive. With Fresh Out Ministries, we're doing a new program where we're doing a takeover of a mom-pop cafe or restaurant, and we're doing a pay it forward. So we're gonna offer free meals at this particular restaurant or cafe, mom-pop, for a certain amount of time, and we are asking that you make a donation to pay it forward so that we can continue doing this program for other mom-pop restaurants and cafes, because we know that it's hard times out here. You have a lot of people that talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And so we're actually walking the walk. We've been doing it for over 11 years on social media. We've been getting shadow banned. We've been getting demonetized. So we want to give back, and this is our way of giving back to helping everybody through these trying times with this economy. A lot of churches, they got $100 billion, and you don't see them out here helping the people who are in times of need, but they're still taking in the form of donations. But how's it helping the community? We want to build a community sense where we help each other. We can all overcome. You can't sit around waiting for somebody to save you. You got to save yourself. And this is the way you do it.
So by us being able to do these takeovers with Fresh Out Ministries, with the mom pop restaurants and cafes, we want to be able to film, talk to you guys, get your feedback on what's going on right now in society. Hopefully you guys find it in your heart to donate. This donation, which is a pay it forward, will allow us to do other mom pops around the country eventually. But right now we're going to be in Southern California and Los Angeles, Orange County. So hey, reach out to your local businesses there. And if you are out of town in another area and you would like us to come there, if you provide the necessary means, we will come there also and do the same pay it forward. But right now, hey, if you're in locally in Los Angeles, Orange County, hit us up, freshoutseries@gmail.com. You can also make a donation on our link tree on our Instagram at Fresh Out Series. We look forward to seeing you guys.